The southern plains of America stretch wide and wild, a land where the sun burns hot, the winters bite deep, and the wind carves secrets into the earth. In the 19th century, this was no man's land, until the Comanche claimed it. They weren't just a tribe, they were a force of nature, a shadowy empire of 240,000 square miles that defied empires and nations alike. Astride 250,000 horses, they ruled with speed and steel, their war cries echoing from Texas to Kansas. For over 50 years, they held the United States at bay, a riddle wrapped in dust and fury. Their raids left towns in ashes. Their warriors vanished like ghosts, and their name struck terror into the hearts of settlers. But what forged this unstoppable power, and what hidden flaw brought it crashing down? This is a tale of triumph, treachery, and a mystery that still lingers in the bones of the West. A story that will leave you questioning the cost of their glory. The birth of the Phantom Riders. The Comanche didn't start as kings of the plains. In the late 1600s, they were a ragged band of Shoshone, eking out a living in the barren Great Basin, modern Wyoming and Utah. Life was a relentless struggle, chasing rabbits and grubbing for roots in a land that offered no mercy. Then, around 1700, a whisper drifted north. Tales of endless buffalo herds and strange beasts with manes and hooves. Gifts from Spanish conquerors far to the south. A restless faction of Comanche broke free, driven by a hunger for something greater. They trekked 500 miles across mountains and deserts, arriving on the southern plains with nothing but grit and a dream. What they found was a revolution on 4 legs. By 1750, they'd tamed the horse, turning it into an extension of their will. A Comanche boy gripped a Mustang's mane at 5, learning to ride as it tore across the grass. By 10, he could gallop hands-free, steering with a nudge of his knee. By 15, he was a weapon, firing arrows at 30 miles an hour, piercing a target 50 yards off. Their horses were lean, fierce, bred to sprint 40 miles without faltering. A warrior kept half a dozen, switching mid-chase to outrun any foe. With these beasts, they hunted buffalo with deadly grace. One rider could drop 10 2,000-pound giants in a single run, enough meat to feed a band for weeks. By 1850, they commanded 250,000 horses, a herd unmatched by any tribe or army in North America. This wasn't just skill, it was sorcery on horseback. Historian Pekka Hamalainen dubbed them the world's greatest horsemen, and the plains became their canvas. They called it Comancheria, a sprawling 240,000 square mile dominion, dwarfing nations like England. They didn't build forts or cities, they ruled through motion. In 1838, 150 warriors rode 120 miles in 2 days, hit a Mexican outpost, stole 800 horses, and melted back into the wild. They crushed the Apache by 1760, killing 200 in a single clash and claiming 1,000 mounts. The Spanish trembled, the French bartered, and American settlers learned to dread the sound of hoofbeats in the night. But as their legend swelled, a shadow loomed, one that would test the very soul of their empire. The Blood Oath of 1840. The year 1840 was a crucible. The Comanche were at their zenith, a storm of feathers and war paint, until a betrayal ignited their wrath. In March, 65 leaders rode into San Antonio under a truce flag, seeking peace with the Texans who'd begun clawing at their land. The talks soured fast. The Texans demanded every captive. The Comanche offered one girl as a gesture. Suspicion flared into violence. Shots rang out, and when the smoke cleared, 35 Comanche, 12 of them chiefs, lay dead in the dirt. The council house fight wasn't just a skirmish. It was a blood oath etched in betrayal. Chief Buffalo Hump, a colossus of a man with eyes like flint, vowed retribution. He summoned 1,000 warriors, twice the number history often recalls. Their faces smeared with red and black, lances gleaming under the sun. On August 8, they struck Victoria, Texas, like a wildfire. 15 settlers fell, their homes torched, their herds, hundreds, strong, swept away. Then they roared to Linville, a sleepy port on the Gulf. 10 more died as flames swallowed houses and docks. In 2 days, they razed 2 towns, killed 25, and rode off with 3,000 horses, captives trailing behind. The Great Raid of 1840 wasn't just revenge. It was a war cry that rattled the frontier, halting Texas's growth as settlers fled in droves. Why such ferocity? The Comanche saw the settlers as a plague, killing their buffalo, fencing their plains, threatening the heartbeat of Comancheria. Every raid was a stand, a refusal to fade. From 1835 to 1860, they struck hundreds of times, claiming 600 lives and countless horses. In 1844, 80 riders hit a Texas ranch, stole 300 mounts, and were 140 miles gone in 36 hours. A warrior named Yellow Wolf once shot 10 arrows into a cavalry squad. Before they could reload, his horse a blur beneath him. Their speed was a phantom's trick. U.S. troops cursed them as wraiths on the wind. Yet this relentless dance with war hit a fatal thread, one that would unravel their world when the plains turned against them. The Reckoning, a world dismantled. The 1870s brought the storm's full fury. The Civil War's end in 1865 freed the U.S. to turn west, and the Army hungered to tame the plains. Colonel Ronald S. Mackenzie, a cold-eyed tactician, rode into Texas in 1871 with orders to shatter the Comanche. His opening move came in 1872 at North Fork, a midnight raid that left 23 warriors dead and 120 captured. But the true reckoning arrived in 1874 with the Red River War, a brutal campaign pitting 3,000 troops against the Comanche and their Kiowa and Cheyenne allies. On September 28, Mackenzie struck at Palo Duro Canyon, a hidden fortress in the Texas Panhandle. At dawn, 600 soldiers crept down its cliffs, catching the tribes asleep. The clash was swift. 4 warriors fell. But the real wound was deeper. Mackenzie seized 1,800 horses, more than history often counts, and ordered them slaughtered. The canyon rang with the screams of dying animals as 1,800 shots tore through their herd. Horses were the Comanche's veins. Without them, they couldn't hunt, raid, or run. The Comanche offered one girl as a gesture. Historian S.C. Gwynn called it the death knell of their nation, and the plains grew silent. Then came the buffalo's doom. Once 30 million strong, the herds were the Comanche's lifeblood, meat for their bellies, hides for their teepees. But white hunters, armed with rifles and greed, descended. Backed by the army, they killed for hides, bones, and spite. In 1873, 5 million fell. By 1884, only 1,000 remained. General Philip Sheridan gloated, "Wipe out the buffalo, and the Indians follow." Starvation gripped the Comanche. A warrior who once fed 50 with a day's hunt now watched his children waste away. Smallpox swept through, slashing their numbers from 20,000 in 1840 to 5,000 by 1870. In June 1875, the last thread snapped. Quanah Parker, a half-Comanche firebrand born of a captive mother, led 400 survivors to Fort Sill, Oklahoma. They laid down their arms, stepping onto a 6,000-square-mile cage, a speck against their lost 240,000-mile realm. By year's end, only 1,500 Comanche breathed. Their horses were dust, their buffalo ghosts, their empire a memory. The U.S. had poured millions and 10,000 men into their defeat, but the victory was hollow, built on bones and broken promises. The enigma endures. The Comanche's tale is a labyrinth of valor and ruin. How did 250,000 horses forge a ghost empire that mocked America for 50 years, only to dissolve when 30 million buffalo vanished? Their raids, like the thunderous 1840 strike, were masterpieces of war, their riders untouchable. Yet their power rested on a razor's edge. Horses and buffalo, twin pillars that crumbled under slaughter and greed. When both fell, so did they. A collapse as swift as their raids. What lingers is the enigma. Could they have defied fate longer? Or was their doom sealed the moment settlers eyed their plains? They stalled manifest destiny for half a century, a defiance unmatched in the West. Today, 17,000 Comanche carry their blood, whispering of a time when their ancestors rode like specters. Their ghost empire haunts us still, a testament to a people who burned bright, fought hard, and fell to a force they couldn't outrun. What price did they pay for their stand? And what secret strength let them hold the line so long? The answers drift like dust across the plains, daring us to look closer.